presentation, and he has found the solution for slippery hands.
Okay, so for my senior project, like Mr. Howard said, I found a solution for slippery hands. So what makes our hands slippery? There are a few things. The first is sweat. So sweat is going to come from eccrine glands, which can be found all over your body, but predominantly in the palms of your hands and the soles of your feet. So if you are participating in an athletic activity, like squash or basketball or anything that, any athletic activity, your hands are going to get slippery naturally, and because of the sweat, a racket in your hand or a ball is going to start slipping around. The second cause is going to be oils from what are called sebaceous glands, and these glands are also found all over your body, but they're not found in the palms of your hand or the soles of your feet. So you might be thinking they don't affect or make our hands slippery. But the human is going to touch their head, their hands, or their back of their hands, their arm, their legs, their clothes. All of those things have come into contact with the rest of your body. So they're going to have those oils, and those oils are going to make your hands slippery as well. The next source is going to be oil, sweat, or water from just anything you touch, like a chair, a desk, a pencil. All those things have come into contact with other humans who have been touching their face, their hair, anything that has oil on it. So those are all going to make your hands slippery. And what I wanted to do for my senior project is come up with a solution for that, and I did. So a few years ago, I was playing in a squash match, and right before the match started, I went to the restroom and I washed my hands with soap and water. I don't normally do this, but I just happened to do it this time. And I found that my hands were a little bit sweaty and slippery before because I was nervous. So when I washed my hands, that slippery sensation had actually gone away. So I wanted to experiment with this. So throughout the match, in between each game, I ran to the bathroom and I washed my hands with soap and water each time, and I found the same effect. So that my hands were not slippery for the first 3/4 of the game. So I knew there was something in this. So I wanted to find a better solution so I didn't have to run to the bathroom each time. So what I did is I bought a bottle of Purell, and so this is hand sanitizer, and I used this in between each game, and I found the same effect. Actually, it had a better effect. So the evaporative qualities of hand sanitizer was actually acting on the sweat, and it was working out. My hands were not slippery. So what I wanted to do next is find a way to deliver this hand sanitizer, during the game, so you didn't have to come off court and apply it to your hands. I wanted to be able to use it as needed. So whenever I wanted it, I wanted to have it. So what I did is I designed a grip, like a wrap that you put on your racket that could dispense the substance during the game. So all you had to do was squeeze really tightly on your grip and it would come out on your hands. So I spoke with a patent attorney about this, and we did some research together, and we found that my idea was new and novel enough to be patented. So I never actually got around to doing anything with this idea a few years ago, but when I was thinking of ideas for my senior project, this was one of the first things that came to mind. So, my process for my senior project, I wanted to find out which ingredients specifically were acting on the sweat on my hands, or the oil for that matter. I wanted to make a gel using those ingredients, and the reason I wanted to make a gel is because if you have a liquid stored inside the grip that I designed and you squeeze, the liquid's actually just going to probably drip off your hand, so it's not going to stay very well. So a gel wouldn't do that. A gel would actually stay on your hands, so you could rub your hands together and get the full effect. Next, I had already designed the grip a little bit, but I wanted to make a better design that could house and dispense the gel. I wanted to then try and model or make that grip, and then dig deeper into if my idea or what parts of my idea were actually patentable. So the first thing I looked at is the composition of sweat. So sweat is made predominantly of water, so that's a huge component in sweat. But lactic acid and urea are actually both present in all kinds of sweat, no matter where it comes from your body, but in much smaller proportions. The rest of the elements you see listed there also might be present, but in very, very small quantities. So the next thing I wanted to do is find and test the right ingredients. I first looked at evaporative liquids, isopropanol, ethanol, and acetone. So isopropanol and ethanol are both found in hand sanitizers like Purell. They're what help clean your hands, and they're what helps evaporate the gel off your hands. Acetone It's found in nail polish remover, and I wanted to experiment with it because it's very evaporative, but after further research I found that it would just burn through your flesh, so that wouldn't help. The next category is gelling agents, so I needed to turn the alcohols into a gel. So those three elements supposedly will help me turn the alcohols into a gel, and I'll go into more of that later. Povidone iodine is an antiseptic agent found in hand soaps, but after a little more research, I found that it wasn't really going to serve me in this project. Triethanolamine, I only bought because it was in the customers also bought section on Amazon while purchasing the product. I didn't actually know I would need it, but it turns out it was essential to my process. So next I moved on to making the actual gel. So my first attempt was with sodium tetraborate, also known as borax, and isopropanol. So borax is used with an alcohol called polyvinyl alcohol, which is used to make this green slime stuff. And it's got a kind of jelly, sticky consistency, so I wanted to see, what I could do with that. So I tried it with isopropanol, and I didn't get any results. It stayed as a liquid, so that wasn't going to work. Next, I looked at sodium polyacrylate, and that is a crystal that's found in baby diapers. And how it works is, so you have crystals within a layer inside the diapers, and when liquid comes into contact with these crystals, they start to swell and turn into a kind of gel. So diapers also have cotton balls inside that layer, so that gel will get absorbed by the cotton balls. So if you've ever seen a full diaper, it's actually larger than it was when it was empty, and that's because of the crystal swelling. So taking that process, I added isopropanol to these crystals, and the crystals, they swelled, and they turned into a gel. But when I put that gel on my hands and I rubbed them together, there were still clumps on my hands. So it wasn't like rubbing Purell on your hands where it all disappears. It was really clumpy, and not all of it evaporated off my hands. So my third attempt was with carbomer and ethanol. So I didn't actually have ethanol up until this point. I was still waiting for it to come in the mail. But it finally came, and I did some tests with ethanol versus isopropanol. And I found that ethanol actually evaporates the water and sweat better off your hands, making your hands less slippery. So I knew that was the alcohol I wanted to work with. So I mixed carbomer and ethanol together, but nothing happened. It was still a liquid. So I took out the TEA triethanolamine bottle, and I took a look at it, and there were actually, in fact, instructions on it for turning alcohols and carbomers into a gel using TEA. So I did a little bit of messing around with the amounts of TEA, and I eventually turned those three ingredients into this kind of gel that you can see here. So it's not entirely a liquid, so it's pretty jelly. All right. So next part of my project was to make a grip that would house and ultimately dispense this gel as needed. So I started experimenting with different kinds of silicone. I knew silicone was flexible, just like current grips are. So if you look at this racket grip, if you look at the grip, it's pretty it's flexible. It moves around a lot. Silicone ultimately has the same properties. So I went and bought some silicone caulking that you use as bathtub sealant, and I put it in a mold, and I left it up to cure. So after 1 day of curing, only this top layer was actually dry. Everything beneath it was still wet. So that wasn't going to work. So it only dried all the way through when I flipped it over. So after some more research, I found that there are actually two different kinds of silicone. That one uses moisture in the air to cure itself. So only the top layer dried through because the bottom wasn't actually exposed to anything. So there's a different kind, which is called room temperature vulcanizing silicone, RTB. So this silicone has a catalyst already inside it, and that catalyst will cure it all the way through, no matter how thick your layer is. So I put it in a mold, and I got something that looks a little bit like that. And it doesn't look too good. So after a little bit of messing around and experimenting, I made a very thin layer. So the first try was the one on the left there. And what I was able to do is, what I wanted to show was that I could, if I poked holes into it, I could show that a gel would come up through it to illustrate, the process of, squeezing and then the gel coming out. So I got some needles and I tried poking holes in it, but the holes weren't showing up. So I brought out a power drill and started drilling holes into it. In fact, even that didn't work. It only worked when I started picking out the little bits of silicone. So eventually I got the holes to show up and I was able to show that the gel could come up through the silicone. And after a few more tries, I made this thinner layer, and I have that right here. And I wanted to use this layer to show a kind of model of the 3 layers that I wanted in my grip. So you see here on the bottom, we have a plastic layer. So that layer is impermeable. Nothing could get through it. So I didn't want the gel actually falling out of the bottom side of the grip because then there would be nothing left for you to use. The middle layer, the sponge, is a kind of reservoir, or it might be a sponge in the actual grip, who knows. So that would be housing the gel. And then this top layer, I don't have pores in it now, but there would essentially be pores in it. So if you were to apply pressure on it, the gel or the liquid would actually come out. So, oops, sorry. Sorry about that.
Is it mirroring your desktop?
Yeah, I have it up on my desktop, but it's not letting me drag.
There you go.
Sorry about this. Okay. So I wanted now that I have this model with 3 layers, I wanted to actually put it onto a racket. So what I did next is, sorry, let me try and skip through it. Okay, so this is what I did next. So I got this thin silicone tubing and I wrapped it around a racket grip, and then I used a syringe and injected the gel that I made into it so it filled up as much as I could. And then I plugged both ends so the silicone had nowhere to go. I then got a really, really small, I think it was a 23 gauge needle, so really, really small. And I poked small holes in it to simulate pores. And so what I was able to show is that if I was holding it in my hand and I was swinging around that, normally like I was hitting a ball, nothing would actually come out of my hands. But if I were to squeeze it really hard, the gel of liquid would come out of my hands. Now I wish I was able to show you guys, but filling it up again proved to be pretty difficult. But proof that it worked is you can see here, it's full of the gel, and on this side you can see the air bubbles of where the gel actually came out. So you can see that it actually does work. So now that it was working, I could think about filing a patent on it now that I had a design. Okay. So there were a few things I could file a patent on. I could file a patent on the gel, and I could file a patent on the actual grip or the design. So I thought about the gel, and in the end, it's just a common mixture of alcohol, biscarbomer, and TEA, which anyone can go online and buy and make it themselves in any quantity that they wanted. So that wasn't really worth filing a patent on. But the grip idea was, after some research, it was actually patentable, and no one had actually thought of the specific design that I was thinking of. So I started thinking about the patent. So there were 2 ways I could go. I could file what's called a provisional patent, which is a smaller, shorter version of a patent, and that would give me 12 months to write out a full patent and file for it. So in those 12 months, I'd have to write it out, and no one else could file a patent on my idea in those 12 months. A full patent would, if I wrote that out now, it'd take a lot of time, a lot of writing, a lot of editing, and I don't think I have that kind of time this month with all the other stuff from a project I was doing. And they also take a very, very long time to file. But I worked on a provisional patent this month, and I had to write out some claims, a summary and background of my invention, make some drawings. So here, this first drawing shows the 3 layers. So we have the impermeable layer, the sponge, and then the pores. This one shows kind of the image of the grip from the top, but you only see 2 layers of the little pores, and that's because when you wrap a grip, you actually wrap a little bit over what you wrapped last time. So if we were to tighten it fully, the gel would end up coming out right away, and the grip wouldn't stay on. So that wasn't going to work. So that's what I have here. This was an earlier drawing with pores all over it, but I don't think that's going to work now. So now I think this is the better solution for that particular problem. This here is just another drawing I did with just the racket and the grip in your hand, just so you can see what it might look like. And as of today, I am in the process of filing for that provisional patent. I'm still working on it. The website was being a little annoying with the file and format of all the stuff I have to upload, but I'm working on it. Hopefully I can get it filed and ready to go by tomorrow. So hopefully it'll work out. That's that. So there are a lot of applications for my projects. So like you see the squash racket application, tennis rackets, badminton rackets, any racket really. Anything that you use during an athletic or strenuous activity that is going to cause your hand to sweat or become slippery, you can use this in. Golf gloves, maybe you could use any golf gloves. Weights in a weight room, on dumbbells or something like that, you can use it. Railings, handles on medical equipment, especially walkers or wheelchairs. This can be really important to prevent falls or people slipping. This doesn't fall under my patent, but an external dispenser of the gel would also work too if you wanted to use it. And I thought of this recently after I made the presentation, but baseball players, when they don't actually get to go back to the dugout in between pitches if their hands get slippery, something like that. So maybe having something on your grip there might help out if you don't wear batting gloves, for example. So that could be another thing that you can use it for. So that's the gist of how my senior project works and what I hope to achieve with it. And I'd be happy to answer any questions any of you guys have now. I thought about that, and if you think about when you have your grip, especially in a racket wrapped all the way, because it's wrapped so tightly, finding an end to it to actually refill it with a syringe or something like that would be pretty difficult. I couldn't get this one to refill, and this is kind of like the base model. So I think I don't think they would be refillable, but I think you could. I was able to squeeze this one 4 or 5 times and get enough gel out to actually take sweat away from my hands. So I think that's a pretty good amount of time before you actually have to redo your grip. AJ?
So ideally, how long would one grip last?
It all depends on the player. So for me, I don't particularly change my grips that often, but I know professional squash players change them every single match. So if you could squeeze the grip 4 or 5 times and get the gel out of it, which a pro might do 4 or 5 times every match, then this would work great for them. For someone who doesn't change their grip all that often, they might be persuaded to change their grip more often if they can't get any more gel out of it and maybe use my product even more. Yeah?
Did you ever think of the gel over drying your hands after, especially like long-term use?
Mm-hmm. So it doesn't actually, I guess I forgot to go into this, it doesn't actually dry your hands. What it'll do is it'll evaporate the sweat, it'll evaporate the water from sweat, which is a big component of sweat. So it'll take that off, but your hands will actually still be a little bit sweaty, but they'll be more tacky and sticky. So this isn't for, maybe you're going into a business meeting, your hands are sweaty, you don't want to, your hand to be sweaty when you shake someone's hand like that. It won't dry your hand off. What it'll do is actually make it more tacky and sticky. So, when you're holding on to a racket, it's not gonna move anywhere. It's not gonna actually dry your hand out. I tried that, but I couldn't get it to do that.
Yeah. Did it improve your game?
I haven't actually, I haven't used the grip during a match, but I've used the gels, and it's definitely helped out a lot. So when your hands get slippery, the racket will start, it'll start moving around a little bit. So, or some people start to grip their grip really tight if your hand gets slippery, so it doesn't slip at all. And all those things can mess up your game. So, yes, the answer is yes, it did help out. Yeah.
Have you thought of any applications for musicians with different various instruments to perform? You get sweaty hands, especially drummers.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking of that. Yeah, that would definitely help out. I think if you were comfortable wrapping it around, then absolutely. Any more? All right. Thank you.